Hi everybody, how you doing? And we are going to go on this beautiful road on this Black History Month. How is everybody doing? I hope you're doing well. I'm going to give you a little time to get yourself together, come into the room. This is Victory Speaks, and I'm your host, Nicole Waldron, and we're going to get into all of that just now. But I just want you to get settled, get your snack. Hope you're ready with some pen and some paper. You know, these nuggets just come. These nuggets just come, and you just don't know when they're. You just need to write some stuff down. I'm just telling you. Listening to the amazing, beautiful songs of Calabash, led by the great Anthony Pierre, Darren Shepherd on pan. I think this Black History Month, I think I need to talk to Mr. Pierre and see if he's going to let me bring on some of Calabash. And let's see how we can do a Calabash reunion of sorts. Because we need to. We definitely need to. It's Black History Month. Hope you like the new design. Yeah. Awesome. So I'm going to load down the music because I want to get started. We got a heavy topic tonight, but it's a good topic. It's a good topic. So welcome to Victory Speaks, Inspired Conversation series where iron sharpens iron. And you know, that iron sharpening comes from you and me, both of us, all of us sharpening each other, being the best that we can be for each other. And I am your host, Nicole Waldron, your voice of victory and mental fitness coach. And I'm on a mission to inspire you to live a victorious lifestyle, as I'm on that same mission as well. This is Inspired Conversation series is one of the ways that I'll be talking to you about living a victorious lifestyle, and we'll get into some more of that a little later. But you know, these inspired conversations, we have them all the time, and sometimes we just don't realize some are ugly, some are bad, some are funny. You name it, we have it. I know I have a countless of inspired conversations with my friends, with my families, with people I just meet. And guess what? I'm meeting a lot of great people on the new app called Clubhouse. We'll talk about that later too. Lots of inspirational topics happening there. And it's Black History Month. It's the 25th anniversary of Black History Month in Canada. And you know, many people work hard to make this happen. And I want to give a special thanks to the Honorable Jean Augustine and the previous Black History Society President, Rosemary Sadler, and her team. They all worked so hard. And Jean Augustine, we're hoping to get her on this month for a special announcement, a special project that she's working on. So let's see how that goes. Now, you know and I know Black history is our history. And it's not just about 1 month. I like to think of today like an anniversary kickoff to our Yelly celebration, celebrating our education, our advocacy, the things that we are, who we are. And I'm encouraging you to share history this month and throughout 2021, 2022, and so forth. During this month, I'm going to have a few extra shows as I seek to amplify the voice of our history. However, the focus will not just be on North America. We will speak to it on hopefully a global level. You got to stay tuned because you're going to have some pop-up shows. But tonight, you know, everybody's talking about science and, you know, all sorts of other things and the pioneers. But I wanted to talk about our mental health in the Black community. For, you know, our mental health is the driver of our bodies. And I'm so excited. Now, if I get a little tongue-tied today, it's because I'm so excited about our guest. She is a woman that I've had countless of conversations with. She has become a friend, and she's actually a mentor to me. She doesn't know that. She probably just found that out tonight. And she is one of my iron sharpeners. For me, she's one of our truly unsung heroes in our community. Some of you who have tuned in tonight, I know that you are very much aware of this fact. My guest tonight graduated from the University of Toronto in 2005 with a Master's of Social Work with a specialization in concurrent disorders. You're probably wondering what that is. I know you are. She previously worked in correctional services and residential treatment service before transitioning to the substance abuse program for African Canadians and Caribbean youth, and that's called SAPACY. That program in 2006. at CAMH. She currently serves as Vice President of the Black Health Alliance, which is a registered Canadian charitable organization consisting of community organizations, health service professionals, and community members working in partnership to advance the health and well-being of the Black community. Previously, she served on the transition board of the Taibu Community Health Center, a project of the Black Health Alliance. Additionally, she lectures on treatment-related issues at colleges and universities and provides training to staff at community-based agencies as part of the CAMH efforts to engage with the community. Victory Tribe, Victory Tribe, Victory Tribe. Give it up, give your emojis, because I am about to bring onto this awesome Victory Speak stage the one, the only Donna Alexander. Let's give it up for her. I wish you could hear your. I'm going to play her some music as she comes on stage, like she was walking on the stage, like she's coming onto Oprah's stage, you know? Hey, Donna.
Hey.
How you doing?
I am good, but I noticed you used my previous bio.
Oh, I used the wrong one? Oh,
yes.
Oh, Lord. I'm so excited to have you here.
I am no longer Vice President of the Black Health Alliance, but that's okay. I'm a member.
You're a member of the Black Health Alliance. Okay, but you worked hard there, man.
But I'm a member.
You worked hard there, man. So how are you doing today? Really, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I just had some wonderful news, so I'm really good.
Oh, I guess I can't ask you what it is. I might have to ask you that behind the scenes. That's okay. That's okay.
Yes.
So we're in Black History Month, and I know that's special for you. What is special and significant for you about Black History Month?
Well, you know, Black History Month for me, like I suppose for most people, it's just a time for reflection. And really, for me, it's a time for being thankful. You know, so along with the reflection comes the thankfulness, right? The gratitude, right? For all of the strong, mighty sons of daughters of Africa that went ahead, and you know, and we stand on their shoulders. And it's also thankfulness for our tenacity, right? As a people. Because as a race of people, you know, I can't think of a more tenacious group of people, right? You know, yes, we're strong, we're resilient. There's just something about us, right? That just this idea, right? It seems in our genes, right?
It is.
So what makes us so strong? What makes us so tenacious, right? And so it's just really about reflecting. And so, you know, I'm always thankful about this month and, you know, Black History Month. It's just my time to reflect, right? And to just give thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that gratitude piece, because, you know, in the midst of it all, when we're dealing with the pandemic and being locked in and you know, some people losing jobs and all those different things, it's hard for me and it's hard for others sometimes to be in that place of gratitude. How do you manage to stay in such a, because you're smiling today, you came in bubbly and I can tell you're genuinely grateful. How do you do that, Donna?
You know, like I said, I just had some wonderful news, which I will share. You know, I have a family member who's been sick for a while, and it wasn't looking so good. And as a matter of fact, the prognosis was not so good. And today, his mom texted me and just had some wonderful news that, you know, that he's recovered so much. This, you know, like almost miraculously, the way how he's recovering, right? And so I'm still so thankful, because when I you know, a few weeks ago when you know, they were saying, you know, that's it, there's absolutely no hope and to come from that, right? And so the universe in all its majesty and its glory and its abundance, right? You know, it always gives to us. And so, you know, and so I'm thankful, because coming from, you know, absolutely no chance to now there's a chance, that's wonderful news. But you know what? I start from the basic. From the basic. I'm alive. I'm healthy. My family and friends for the most part, they're doing well.
Mm-hmm.
A roof over my head. My child is okay. Like, there are so much things to be thankful for. And so every day when I wake up, I'm just thankful. I'm thankful, yes, and I try to live, and it takes effort. I'm not saying it's,
Yeah.
yes, I'm usually optimistic, but
Mm-hmm.
I think in times like this, it's when it really tests you, when you really have to dig deep, right? When you really have to see, what you're made of. And so every day I get up and I'm awake, and I
Yeah.
breathe. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's time to be thankful. It's
And you know
really.
what? We can take that for granted. And um, you said, I can breathe.
Mhm.
And that for me is huge in this season because we started last year, we were talking last year with the virus and then George Floyd's, and we went, I can't breathe. And so the fact that we have to literally take that conscious step and say, I can breathe. We can't
Mhm.
take breath for granted anymore. This virus is affecting our lungs. It's affecting that part of us.
Yes, yes, right. So the fact that we are able to breathe, right?
Yeah.
That's it, right?
And
Yeah.
it's so important to our central nervous system. And listen, you have fans on here, Don. I'm just going to tell you. Um, I'm just going to just before we get into the nitty gritty. Essie says you're looking great. Janelle is like love, love, love. Joe
Thank
is like
you.
I just got in. I had to rush in to listen. Um, they are loving you already. I love more says hi, Queens. So, oh, I got to put this up. As he says, so much respect for the work Donna does. Yes, me too. That's why I was so happy when she said yes.
Mhm.
Oh, Dr. Diana is like my two favorites. Oh, Dr. D. Okay, you're going to make us, we haven't even started yet, and you guys are making us sleepy. Look at this. You look spectacular. Okay, guys, you can just pour it on. We're just going to take it all in. We're just going to sit on here. We can put on crowns tonight or something. You know what I'm saying? But I hope everybody's putting on
Yeah.
their crowns. And remember to give yourself your flowers as well,
Mhm.
because you are wonderful and you are great. So Donna, you are in this field of mental health and wellness. Um, how in the world did you get into this field?
And again, right? The universe just have a way of aligning, right?
Mhm.
It's amazing because originally I thought I was going to I was going to study social work, and
Right.
I'm inspired by my mother who um, was always very kind, very selfless, very giving, very loving, and so that was my example, right? Um, was kind almost to a fault, and so that was my example. That's what I knew. That was the behavior that was modeled for me.
Yeah, yeah.
So it seemed like a natural transition, right? But when I went to social work school, my plan was to do emergency social work, was to work in a hospital in an emergency room,
Yeah.
right? Um, but then once I started working in the community, and I saw the need, and I saw families that were struggling, Black families, racialized families, then it became a natural transition
Mhm,
to work with them in order to promote and to
mhm,
protect, and to sustain good mental health. Um, and so that's it. It
mhm.
seems so weird. Like once I started that, then I decided right away that that was it. That was going to be it for me. And so here I am. You know, from the time I was in Ryerson undergrad, and I decided this was it going to be it for me. And so fortunately, I've been so fortunate that I've been able to do this, right? And not only to do it, but to work with my community. Like it's such a blessing and privilege that I get every day to go out there and to serve and to serve the Black community, to work with Black families, right?
Yeah.
I honestly cannot think of a greater privilege. Like, that I get to go out there every day and to do this work. That to me is it's such a labor of love. It is such and that's one of the things I'm so fortunate about, right? Is that every day I get to go out there and I get to do this work with Black families. Like, how fortunate I am.
How long have you been doing this work? How long have you been in the field, Donna? When you would
Well,
think of the years, how many years has it been?
I think I graduated from Ryerson in 1999 or something. Or
Wow.
yeah. I'm not as, I'm not
Yeah,
as
yeah. You look like a spring chicken. Listen,
and,
aging well.
in 2000, and so in 2005 was when I finished up everything
Yeah.
and then started working. Yes, but it's been a while. It's been a few years.
So that's, I can tell that you really love what you do, and that's why you're in it, because it really is coming true. And this speaks to the example of the hours that you put in and the tenacity that you put in into your work, and why you're so loved and revered by the community. And just even seeing the comments that came in online, just we haven't even started and people are sending you flowers. So I'm really loving that. And then, but you went into corrections, like you were working with corrections first. Like, how did you end up in there? Like, what was that about?
Well, I ended up there because as part of my internship undergrad, I started working with women that were in the system. So started working with women, most of them Black women, that were in the system that were, that were incarcerated, and then they came out. They were still federal inmates and provincial inmates, but now there was their time to transition back to the community. And to be expected, most of these women were experiencing mental health issues. And so that's where I first started working. Working with these women. And go ahead.
And then so then you moved from so you graduated and you moved out of corrections. And so what happens from there after you moved out?
Then I went back to do my master's, and then after that was when I started working full time in mental health within mental.
And so you transition, and you're working with SAPASI, and I remember that SAPASI wasn't first at CAMH. How did SAPASI? What's the history of SAPASI and the work that is there?
So SAPASI, I think, was founded in the community in 1993, and then transitioned to CAMH in 1998, I believe,
right,
for administrative and mostly for administrative support, right, and clinical support. And so by the time I went to CAMH, I believe in when I did my internship at CAMH in 2004, 2005. And then after that, I got hired in SAPASI.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So
that's where we met.
Yes. Yes. So it's been, so the program was around long before I started.
So those that don't know, what is the, I think I cut you off there. I'm not listening today. For those that, because I'm so excited to have you on here, I don't even understand. Janelle goes, Janelle remembers, you see, we have Lady Skeleton, started by Harambe. Yeah, Janelle. We're going to have a panel on mental health. And I want to bring people like yourself, Janelle back on, bring on like Natisha, and some key like Akwatu, and let's talk about some more, because we're not going to get through everything tonight, because the mental health in our community this is a huge topic. So all y'all listening there, if you are in the field, I'm coming.
Janelle is the great historian. Janelle one time was on the advisory committee. I mean, for this program, it's really been a community.
Yeah.
This program is really it belongs to the community. This is a community program, right? That's what it really is, right? Yeah.
So for those who don't know what SAPASI is, if you want to tell them about the program and a bit about it before we get into more about the mental health and what it is. But the SAPASI program is pretty unique. What is this program that is now housed at CAMH?
Yeah. So, I mean, and the name is kind, because we do everything, like I said. So substance abuse program for African, Canadian, and Caribbean youth. Quite a mouthful. Right. I mean, but this is what I mean. But when I say concurrent disorders, is that we work with youth that are experiencing mental illness as well as substance dependence. So we do both. So the name would imply that we we primarily work with youth that are experiencing substance dependence.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, we do both.
Right.
That's where the concurrent disorders part comes in. And so we basically, our mandate really is to serve youth 13 to 24. But I mean, we do because there's such a need in the community.
Yes.
It's a very underserved community, and there's such a when I say there's a need, I mean there is such a need that people will drive all the way from Niagara Falls to
What?
come. Yes, yeah. I mean, we have clients now that we're seeing all the way from in Ottawa, especially now that we're web based. People that moved out of Toronto, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe going away to school, or yes, I think because you know what, I think it's easy for people to underestimate the need that people have
Mm-hmm.
for culturally safe care, for someone that
Mm-hmm.
understands, someone that relates, someone that you don't have to explain every single thing to because they get it, they
Mm-hmm.
understand it. Yeah.
I like that phrasing you said, culturally safe care.
Hmm.
That and why would you say for you when you look at it, why is that so important to have that, especially for us?
Because in order for people to engage, and this is what a lot of people don't understand, right? In order for people to engage, right? In order for them to follow treatment recommendations, in order for you to build a therapeutic alliance and build and engage with them, they have to feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
That influence every single thing. If people don't feel safe, that's the most crucial part, right? People have to feel
Yeah.
comfortable. They have to feel safe. And I think a lot of times we underestimate that. We underestimate the need that people have when you can just go, you can just go and you can just be comfortable, right? You can you it's a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I've yeah, like sometimes I'm in my office and I hear crying from my coworker's office and I say, what's going on? He's like, oh, the mom is just glad to see me. And the mom is glad to,
Yeah.
yes. Sometimes he'll go in the waiting room and parents will look at him and just burst into tears. And it's because they're so happy. They're just so happy to see this young, black, beautiful brother, and he's there to work with their sons. And it's such a feeling for them that they become just overjoyed.
Yeah,
You
because
know,
for
you
family,
look at that, yes.
it's for family, I find, and I say it personally too, people, we address, our loved ones with a mental illness. And so many times we miss the families and they don't realize that once one is ill, it's the whole family that's affected by it. And so if we were to take a step back for a minute, and I know Janelle just put up here, you're truly amazing, Donna. It's shameful how under-resourced the work is. It
Mhm,
truly is. It truly is. Because when you start looking at the numbers,
mhm,
um, what are before I ask my next question, because just a I don't like the word conversate, but just to have this conversation with you is so robust, you know? And what are the numbers and stuff that you're seeing? What that is happening now? I mean, like, especially now since COVID happened.
yeah, I mean, I got a printout of my client list for last year, just for 2020, and I was shocked. I'm looking at it and I'm literally shocked. I'm saying, really? Because we're getting so many clients right now that are struggling with COVID related
Mhm.
anxiety. People who perhaps we haven't seen in years, right? But they're starting to become really anxious. There's a word for it, COVID related anxiety,
Yeah.
right? Where people start to have this fear that they'll get infected and that they'll die, or
Mhm.
just really, OCD like behaviors,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
we're getting a lot of people like that now. And so the numbers are now through the roof. The numbers are through the roof.
I can't even imagine. And I guess you're talking to, like, because you've been a part of Taboo, you've been a part of the Black Health Alliance. You
Mhm.
you have you move like everywhere I go, I see your name popping up now. People are calling on you, and I'm sure this must be a very busy month for you, and it's been
Mhm.
a very busy time for you. What are you hearing in the community in terms of what they're also seeing, in terms of the numbers and in terms of the need for care? Um,
Well, right now, unfortunately, COVID impacted us disproportionately. Like for a lot of people that are, I mean, even, a lot of people that have been laid off, they're the last to be
Yeah.
hired, last to be hired, first to be fired. So in terms of families now, like there's so many families right now that are in need, right? There's so many families, because even with when you're talking about in the past, the only way that some families made ends meet, right, is out of work and maybe
Yeah.
at different nursing homes, right? And now you have where if you work at one nursing home, you're not allowed to work at another. Not that people want to.
Yeah.
People are doing whatever they can
Have
in order
to survive. Yeah.
Exactly, right? And so, and there are a lot of our families that worked in the hospitality where there were chefs or there were waitresses or there were servers, whatever. And so with the pandemic, a lot of us work in the service industry, right? And so this pandemic is, in terms of economically, it's really been difficult for families, right? Especially families that are new to the country, that we're trying to assimilate, and then all of a sudden this happens, right? So it's like still multi-layered in terms of the struggle that families are experiencing, and then on top of all of this, to be experiencing, mental health, COVID-related anxiety or depression, or even psychosis. It's yeah. I think for us, some of us, it's really difficult to really appreciate and understand the struggle that families are experiencing right now.
And it's, as you say, it's so layered and it's so complex, and I can only imagine the numbers are staggering. Two questions come to mind right now, but I'm going to touch on this first. You mentioned psychosis, and I understand what psychosis is, but for those who don't understand what psychosis is, can you give a little, understanding or some understanding, especially now, what psychosis is?
Well, psychosis really is a loss of touch with reality. And it's mostly characterized by what we would call auditory hallucinations, visual or somatic, meaning you hear things that are not there, you see things that are not there, and really delusionary thinking where your thoughts become really distorted, and perhaps some paranoia, right? And some cognitive deficits as well. You have all your negative symptoms where you lose your memory, you lose cognition, and then you get all of the positive where the voices, all of these things. And we're finding people are experiencing more psychosis because a lot of young people are using substances to cope.
Yeah.
So when you use substances, a lot of sometimes that may trigger psychosis, right? So people start to drink, they start to smoke weed or use cocaine and something, and then that will trigger psychosis. So we're seeing a lot of that because people are coping in different ways.
Yes, totally. People
are coping in different ways, are using different things to cope.
And I would say anybody who's listening here, and if psychosis has many symptoms, so I would encourage you to go look it up. And if you're not sure, if you see a loved one experiencing something, go ask the questions. I know at CAMH and Canadian Mental Health Association, so many places have resources where you can call somebody and ask them some questions. Donna's not going to be able to answer all our questions tonight, but it's so layered. And I also say for those people who end up using back in the day, a lot of, growing up, everybody's smoking a lot, not everybody, but people are smoking cannabis. It's just the thing. It's a Caribbean thing. It's a West Indian thing. But here now with the THC levels, people are and the legalization. I appreciate the legalization because you can actually go and look up stuff. You don't always have to get the street stuff that I see people getting. So in some ways, but I think individuals have to start paying attention. If you're using cannabis, you need to look at the levels. What are you using? Are you using it for pain? Are you using it for recreation? Because it has different complexities. And young minds, and I know from the research and the stuff that the young minds, it's very easy, especially when the teenage minds, the young 20s, they go into psychosis very quickly. Like it can happen. I don't think people realize it could just happen. Like one day they're fine, and the next day you see a whole different set of changes in emotions and stuff. So that's just a sidebar. I see somebody here is asking a question. Brian Gonzalez is asking, let's see here. Is there incidence of mental health related to being socially isolated, especially for those who are alone and already marginalized from the broader community? I think you kind of answered that, but.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, most of us we're dealing with the physical isolation, right? And for some of us, it's because imagine just touch, right?
Yes.
Just having someone touch you, right? There are people that haven't been touched for so long.
Yes.
Right? So, and then it's like even when you're walking in the sidewalk, right? So we crave human contact, right? So even walking on the sidewalk and just, not even being able to even walk close to people because you have to move away. And if you don't, then they do, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's really the social isolation we're not meant to be isolated like this.
Yeah.
It's like this is not natural for us, right? It's something we're forced to do, but by no way is this normal and natural for us.
What advice would you have for people who know that if they are socially isolated or even have loved ones, how can we help? How can we be of support as a community? Because we can step up in so many ways, and I don't think we do. What?
And that's why we say, being physically isolated, right? But what can we do so that we promote some sort of social interaction, such as what we're doing now, right?
Yeah.
So, instead of texting, how can we talk more? How can we, because even if we're talking on the phone, we're hearing the voices, right?
Yes.
We're listening, just to hear someone's voice, right? And I think we have to make a conscious effort because the more we socially isolate, the more it's difficult for us to reach out, to extend ourselves.
Yeah.
To make the effort. It seems counterproductive, right? The more our socially isolated we are, the more we get anxiety really about engaging.
Yes. Right? Isn't that funny?
It is. It's so weird.
Because it's like you forget how to socialize. So now when you have to go back and socialize, you're getting like, what am I going to do? And then the risk of getting infected.
It becomes like an effort where we want to do it, but it feels too burdensome to do it, right? So we have, and this is why I say to my clients, right? Even if you're home and you're at least try to get out. Like at least try to get out as safe as possible, right? If the weather permits to go for a walk, even to just, but just to be out, for 30 minutes or so, if you can do that safely.
And I feel like, because like for me, like I go like, even if you're in an apartment building, I don't like the cold. I'll be honest with you. But now I finally found a warm coat, so I'm like, I'm kind of okay. But even if it's just walking the halls, going down the steps, putting on your mask. And people say they're zoomed out. And I understand we're zoomed out, but we were living such fast-paced lives, going to work, sitting at a desk 9-10 hours. And we were complaining about being at a desk 9-10 hours. We were complaining about this. Now, I know that we have to be home. I said, but what about being zoomed in? And I think it's in the languaging. I'm not zoomed out anymore. I'm going to get zoomed in. I'm going to interact with people and have some. I listened to a friend of mine say to me the other day, they have a family meeting from all over the world twice a week.
I do it once a week.
Wow.
To the night at 8:00. No matter where we are in Jamaica, in Florida, wherever in Florida, in Mississauga, in Brampton, my father in Jamaica, we all get on it and we talk and we laugh and I don't know.
Before COVID, we weren't doing that. Before COVID, who was thinking about doing that?
We were really doing that, but we have a family meeting and it's just talking and laughing. And basically that's what we do. Saturday nights at 8:00. And from wherever we are in the world, we log on.
Yeah.
And this is our time together.
I love, and to me, it's like, I remember a friend of mine who's a publicist called me and said, Nicole, it's Thanksgiving. Can you give some advice and stuff on TV? And I did this interview and I was like, sharing family recipes We talk about certain things. This one likes this. Getting a group of friends and having a little get together and just having a little toast for something. Just using Zoom for something other than work. Finding the ways to find pleasure. For me, is I always say, what is the opportunity in this crisis? Because our mental health is so important to us. And I wonder,
what is the most important thing? Is the most important.
Yes.
Right?
Hey.
So that's the place I start from, where I say to people, you know what? Mental health, if we just start from the position that mental health is the most important thing in life, right? So anybody asks me, I say, you know what? That is the most important thing in my life. And so whatever threatens my mental health has to go. It has to be reevaluated or regulated to somewhere else, because my mental health is the most important thing in my life. By far, number one, comes before anybody and everything else, right?
And I think people don't realize how your mental health affects so many things, Donna. As like, I heard another friend say, I'm not going to let anything or anyone steal my peace. My peace is the most expensive thing in my life, because I don't want you to steal my peace. And so when we start thinking about, okay, our culture, and you said something in the beginning, we're resilient. We've come from trauma. We're bleeding while leading, and while we're healing. So in the midst of it all, whether it came from slavery, when we were doing whatever we were doing, the civil rights movement, we've always been leading, but we're always bleeding. And so I look at the pandemic, I think of you guys on the front lines, because you're on the front lines. You and the team, whether you're at CAMH, whether you're at CAFCAN, whether you're at TIBU, whether you're at Black Health Alliance, the nurses and doctors, the interns, you guys are on the front line. What's happening to the mental health of those of you on the front line? How are you guys doing?
It's difficult. It's difficult.
And how can we support you as a community? Because we're always asking you for help. And I know we're going to get into some more stuff, but we're asking you guys to help us. And we know it's a known thing that people's mental health and wellness, we're expecting unfortunately a dramatic climb in unwellness. So how can we help you guys so that you can take care of yourselves, your families, and then us?
And that's a hard question for some of us to answer. That is because we're always in the caregiving mode, right? We're always, if you ask most of us that do this, we're always in the caregiving mode. And so what I would say is that is you help by supporting each other. You help by keeping yourself well and supporting your family and supporting the community, right? That's how you help, because we're in this together, right? So I am not apart from you. You're not, because if we look at how we can see, when we talk about the thing, I am because you are, right? Yeah. So it's never about me. My sister always say, "You think it's about you." I should always give her a lecture. You think it's about you, but it's not about you. It's not. And so it's never about us, right?
Yeah.
You never think it's about me, right? And I'm hoping that this is what we think, right? That it's never really about us, right? Because we don't exist in isolation. We exist because we're connected to the other person.
Yes.
Right? And so if I am not doing well, right, that means the community, you're not doing well either. But if I'm doing well, then the expectation is that we should all thrive to make sure we're doing well together as a collective, right? And so this is me. This is why when people say, I say, you know what? You help by making sure that you're well. You help by making sure you're supporting the community. You help by making sure you're uplifting the community, right? To make sure that we're not fighting each other, right? Bringing each other down or engaging in behaviors that are really not useful and helpful to us as a community. Because sometimes in our hurt, right? We internalize all of that, and then it comes out in the most destructive way, where we do things that we know we shouldn't do, or we shouldn't do against our brothers and our sisters, right? Forgetting that they're also sons and daughters of Africa, just like us, right?
Come on now, Donna,
Yes.
bring it in.
And yes, and by doing that, we don't understand that by bringing this sister, this brother down, that we're also doing it to ourselves, right? And so that's how we help each other. That's how you help me. That's how I help you, right? Is that we really think about and just understand the way how we're connected to each other.
Being
and I exist because you exist.
Yeah.
Because
I'm my sister's keeper. I am not just my sister's keeper. I am my sister. Exactly. I am my brother.
Yes, I exist because you're a group of women in the community, right? That uplift, that supports, that encourages. I'm telling you, this is why I exist. Because I'm telling you, there's some women, right, in the community out there that, oh my God, like, that this support
like crabs in a barrel. We're like crabs in a barrel.
Unconditional.
Yeah.
Right? And I know that their sense of goodwill towards me is 100%. Right? I don't have to question it.
Come on now.
And I say to my daughter, if anything were to happen to me, right? Oh my God, there's a group of women who would just swoop in, right?
Yes.
Just swoop in and just hold things down. Just like how if anything were to happen to them, I would do the same for them, right? And I've seen it done in our community.
But here's the thing, Donna. We have those women and men that will do it. But I found when it comes to mental illness, they don't swoop in.
Because of the stigma that we're still trying to deal with.
Because when a loved one, whether, somebody gets diagnosed with cancer, there's a death in the family, cancer, people come in, they bring you casseroles, they bring you, and I know there's this running, joke on joke, quote on joke, for caregivers in the mental health community, like, who brought you a casserole? I don't think people realize what families go through when they're taking care of a loved one with a mental illness. Can you help people to understand what happens when a loved one is diagnosed with a mental illness and what the toll or what happens to it families as a whole?
Yes, and a lot of people
in our community.
Yes, because you know what, a lot of times the person is there, but it's like a lot of times it's like the person is there, but in terms of presentation, they won't be the same again. Right? Because mental illness, a lot of times it changes people.
Yes.
And so a lot of people feel so uncomfortable. There's a certain level of discomfort that we as a community, we're still trying to move through that, right? We're still trying to get comfortable with it. We're still afraid of saying or doing the wrong things. And in the absence of that, we do nothing. And a lot of times it's not that we don't want to do anything, but a lot of times we are afraid that we're going to do something wrong, and so we don't do anything. And that's a mistake that we make, because we could extend more support. We could say something encouraging, right? But a lot of times a fear that somehow we're going to make some mistake, right? And so we keep putting it off, and then at a certain time it becomes, we feel it in our mind, it's too late. Just like how, when you're supposed to reach out to someone, time pass, and after a while you're thinking, oh my God, I can't possibly reach out now, I'm too embarrassed, right? It's a similar story.
Yes.
A lot of times we like, if we're only honest to say, you know what, I don't know how to support, but I want you to know I'm thinking about you, right?
Yeah. Come on now.
I want you to know I'm thinking about you, right? But because it's so, and it's a lot of fear too. It's almost as if we think it's contagious. And if someone, then somehow, and it's our own fear.
It's almost like how we dealt with cancer. Remember in the Caribbean, you couldn't say the C word. You used to say the C word and never used to say cancer.
Because it's almost as if we think, psychologically that if this happens to, then somehow it might happen to us too. And it's a fear. It's fear, really. It's fear-based, right? In the way how we respond, right? And what we're really thinking, we're internalizing that, and we're thinking, I don't know if this were to happen to me or my family member, if I will be able to deal with it. And because we don't have the confidence that we can deal with it, we, a part of it is denial. Okay, I'll just pretend it's not happening.
Yes.
Right? I'll put it over here and I won't deal with it. Right? I won't confront it. Right? And I don't think for the most part a lot of times we mean to do it.
Yeah.
But it's a whole history of what we've been taught, right?
So, okay. My head is in 10,000 places, right? Because the topic is so juicy, and you just say so many great things. I hope you're writing it down. You got your pen and your pencil. If you don't know who I'm talking to right now, if you're on live or on the replay, I'm just going to say I'm talking to Donna Alexander. She's a social worker. She's a social activist in our community for Black mental health and so many other things. And she's a mom. She's not just, this woman you're seeing here has a life, but yet she gives back so much to the community. And as we talk about mental health and the Black community, if you were to describe mental illness to our community, to help bring some understanding and break some of the stigmas, break that down for me or us.
Well, it's the same thing, right? It's, the simplest analogy I could give in terms of mental illness and trauma, right? It's okay. Mental illness really is when we're not doing good in our mind, right? And so part of that is that there's some really good, big, fancy definition. I won't bother to give that, right? But what I will say is that when we're compromised in the fact that we're not able to function to the extent that we would normally function, and it shows up in our day-to-day life, in the way we think, in the way we act, in our perspective, everything starts to change. And sometimes the change is really subtle, and then it gets progressively worse. But at some point, there's usually a shift, right, in our perspective, in our outlook, in the way we see things, the way we view things. Usually it starts with a very subtle shift. And then a lot of times it tends to progress from there.
How do we get, Wendy just said in the comments, I'm still trying to get a sister to realize that her mental illness is not an emotional embarrassment. And for many, that's a problem, whether it's a sister, whether it's a brother, whether it's a son or a daughter. Any ideas on helping to narrate this, to try and get some of that stigma?
That's what I talked about the stigma, right? And what we're doing now is really important because we're talking about it, right? For too long, like we think, especially Black women, right? Because, when I first came to, years ago, I remember when I was working at Toronto General, one of my coworkers was saying to me, oh, so-and-so said they have postpartum depression, but we are Black women, we never get that. And a lot of times, it's not that we don't get depressed, we don't get anxious, we don't get postpartum, we don't get all of this, right? It's because a lot of times we don't have the luxury. We feel as if we don't have the luxury to indulge, right?
Yes.
Because a lot of times we might be feeling depressed or anxious or whatever, but we have to literally force ourselves to do whatever we have to do, because then we start to be in survival mode. And we all know what that is, right? Where we might be able to go to work and then come back home and collapse into bed and cover up. But we make sure we go to work.
Yes.
Because if we don't go to work, what's going to happen to our children and to the roof and to keep a roof over our head, right? And so the stigma that exists in the Black community is there for a reason, right? And in my talk on Wednesday, I'll talk more about why, why things exist in the community like this, historical reasons, right? But the stigma that exists for a reason, right?
And we're going to make sure, I'll make sure and share that flyer that you're going to be speaking on Wednesday, because I think that's really important.
Yes. Yeah. So, because there's a reason. So it's a stigma, right? We feel as if, right? We can't show weakness. We feel as if we always have to be strong. We feel as if we shouldn't feel sorry for ourselves. And part of that was the way we were socialized,
Yeah.
We were socialized that, and a lot of times we feel guilty.
Come on now. Yep.
Because we're sad and we're depressed. Because what we're thinking? Our forefathers went through so much. How dare we be sad and depressed?
Yeah. Yep.
That's what we're thinking, right?
And they were sad and depressed and sometimes they were doing some stuff.
But see, and so for us, we think, how dare we indulge ourselves like that, right? And we think, and a lot of times too, like this is a message we get. What do you have to be sad and depressed about, right? You're living in Canada. You have all of
this. You have all of that.
Yes, and so literally, there's so many reasons. There's so many contributing factors, but for a lot of us, right? This is the guilt that we feel, right? We shouldn't feel like this, as if to suggest that we're not human beings.
And like we want to feel like this. Nobody wants to get up feeling depressed. Nobody wants to get up feeling anxious. Can I tell you? And sorry if I offend some of you. Sorry, not sorry. But in some ways, one of the opportunities in the crisis of COVID is that some people who never understood anxiety and depression before, people who used to ridicule others because they were depressed, are finally realizing that it's not as simple as having positive thoughts every day. And it's bigger than that. And, as I've done my reading and studying and I know there's some conflicting theories, but when I look at the neuroscientists and I look at like people like Dr. Carolyn Leaf and all these people who are studying the brain, because it starts in the brain. If the brain starts, however the brain is affected, whether you had an accident, whether it's because you had too much depressive thoughts, whether it's genetic, the fact that something has happened in your brain is where it holds your emotion. Your mind is in here, your emotions, your thoughts, everything is in there. And if for whatever reason, the contributing factor is you're becoming unwell, we don't get upset when we get cancer. We don't have we don't have a clue, they say, about cancer and stuff. But you can kind of correlate that it's your brain, that something's happening in where your mind lives. And we have to stop this stigma. It pains me so much, when people talk about suicide, that person was selfish. I'm like, seriously, people? That person was in pain.
Yes.
Mental torment.
Yes.
And people don't understand what it is like to be in a mental torment. If you... Like, this topic is so much for me. Like, I can talk about mental health all day. And I know it is for you. And, I'm so appreciative of all the people online who are commenting. And I'm just going to drop to some of the comments. Madge says, Black women have been expected to carry the family on our backs and then not complain and come home and be tired and not be well. Brian says, and realizing what social isolation is, many are socially isolated. Yes, before COVID-19.
Before COVID, and COVID made it a lot worse.
But here's, as I say to people, we can let this crisis take us down, or we can let this crisis build us up. This crisis is bringing a lot of our issues. Not that it wasn't in the light before, but it's being amplified. It's like it's like when you had wax in your ears and all of a sudden you went to the doctor and he says, "Oh, you had a lot of wax in your ears. Oh, now you're hearing clearer." What people like yourself, people like Floydine Friedel, Janelle Scarrett, all the many that Kwame McKenzie, all the different people that Akwatu Kente, what I could call the names, that have been working in this field in Canada for so long. If you had a message that you could give to our Black community right now, what would that be?
I think the message would be to realize that, yes, we're a community, we're a community that's strong. We're a community that's resilient. We're a community that, by all accounts, based on our history and the situation, that a lot of us are doing really, really well. And it speaks to our strength and our resilience, right? But also, this is a community that's also experiencing, to some extent, a mental health crisis.
Yes.
So it's not a single story. A lot of us are doing really, really well. But then there's a segment of our community that's struggling, right? That are experiencing mental health crisis. And as a community out there, we have to understand that we are our brother's keepers, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is a community that, you know, like you were saying, increased suicides, and the homicides, all of that. You know, for years we were disproportionately impacted by that, right? And as a community, we still have a long way to go in terms of advocacy. We need to be more, we need to advocate more, right? We need to advocate more in order to really get the resources that we need to get to meet the needs of this community, right? And so I think for a long time, for a lot of years, advocacy and the support that needs to be in the community, it has been left to a certain number of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as a community, we need to be more politically savvy. We need to get involved more, and we need to advocate, especially those of us that have the ability to do so.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are too many of us that are not doing as good as they should, right? We've lost a lot of our children within the last 10. I mean, Louis March should tell you this every time I go to a funeral for a young person. Louis is right there beside me, right? You know, and I know because when these things happen, people send me pictures of their children, right? To say, I know, I always know when we lose children because I get the call, or we lose another one, right? And so a lot of us, we're struggling.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of us are doing good, and we are managing to hold ourselves up.
Mm-hmm.
But we cannot forget the ones amongst us that are really struggling, right? And how can we as a community extend a lot more support to them?
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times they're suffering in silence, and they're extremely isolated.
Yeah.
And we have to remember that no matter where they're from, whether we're from the Caribbean or we're from the continent, you know, we're all, you know what I mean? We're all in this together. And so the community is diverse, right? East Africans, West Africans, all of these, you know, third, fourth generation, right? But when people look at us, they don't know all of these different, right? I think they're saying we come from 100, Black people come from 172 different birthplaces, right? Mm-hmm. But we have to somehow understand how connected we are.
Yeah.
And we really should be advocating more. I mean, right now we don't have, one of the things we don't have, right? We don't have any coordinated grief support.
Yes.
People that have lost their families through gun violence in the community, right? That's a huge need in the community. We need something dedicated from a culturally safe standpoint for families that have lost loved ones, right? And we've lost children, 15, 16-year-old children, right? Yeah. Over the year, we've lost. And so they're nowhere for those families to be. And that's a huge need in the community. Always have to constantly build support.
And there's only so much that the few of you that are doing the work can do. Because, you know, when you talk about the grief counseling for those who have, you know, lost ones to gun violence, and I think those of us who've lost loved ones to those who committed suicide, and then we have the criminal justice system. Listen, we're going to have a series on this mental health. Donna, you're booked. I'm just telling you. I need you for the rest of my life. And then, you know, I want to also talk about, not tonight necessarily, because I know you don't have much more time, but also how the mental health system criminalizes our children. You know, people don't understand the mental health system when, you know, you have the 72-hour hold and then they can get out and then they're not well because they're not, what is it? What is that word that we use? What's that word for,
they're forensic, they don't have capacity.
And they're not immediate danger to themselves or others.
Well, the threshold is very low.
And I go like, so
the threshold is very low. And
psychosis, that just blows my mind.
And the Eurocentric thing that says consent begins at 13. All of these different things, right? Yes, all of these different things.
And I don't know if people, so if you didn't know, if you're listening on the line and you didn't know, that a person, but no, regardless of the age, that goes into psychosis has to still give consent to the doctors, to the medical team, to allow their families to have involvement in their care or to let them know. And I think a lot of people don't realize that after the first episode, you take them to emergency. After that, if they don't give you consent and they're experiencing paranoia, whatever else, families have to sit there in the hope that their loved one says yes.
And can someone with that experience in psychosis really give consent? I mean,
hey,
and I'll talk about, when I talk about Eurocentric as opposed to Afrocentric, right? Because these are all the things where for us, family looks very different. Like I have kids that come in because, perhaps the mother's at work, the mother cannot accompany the child. And so the mother, sister, friend, or the auntie is the one that accompanies the child.
right.
In our culture, there's nothing wrong with that. We do that.
Mm-hmm.
If I have a friend, it's a child's auntie. The child has always known, okay, my mother's friend is my auntie. So if I can't take my child to an appointment, my mother, my second mother, or my aunt.
Friend could be auntie. Yes.
You can. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? But from a Eurocentric point of view, then that would not be appropriate.
And our children are being, we need a conversation just on this. We'll figure out who we want to bring to the table, because individuals in our community really need to understand. And the mayor needs to understand it. The counselors need to understand it. The reason you have so many homeless people and all these different things, it's tied into a mental health system that is set up to not get people the help that they need in a timely manner. And, it just saddens me so much. Joan Pierre is saying here, we need a space that is run by the Black community for mental health crisis only, and folks will feel welcome at any stage they are in. They will continue to suffer in silence because they have no space with folks that look like them to help them. Exactly.
Listen, as a community, we need, Paul Bailey and I.
Yes.
We talk about this all the time. We need our own Fuk or whatever, because we need our own space, our own Black mental health facility, where when Black people are experiencing mental health crisis, they can go and we can be assured that they're getting the culturally safe care that they need, right? Where they go and they don't have to be fearful, or they don't have to feel anxious or nervous about access support, because that there's a group of Black people there, and then their job is to support you, and they're doing it because they want to do it and they feel privileged to do it, right? So you don't have to be afraid. You don't have to be afraid, because that when you walk through those doors, that you're welcome and you feel secure, right?
Yes.
Because you're with people that fully understands, right? That's what's important, and that's ultimately, right? That's my goal, that's my dream, that someday somehow
blue sky
we will get our own as a community, where, not saying that every single Black person will want to access service there, right? But at least it's an option. So when we go there, we know that we can get the culturally safe care that we need. Right.
And we started with legal aid. We've started in other sectors. We are so underserved and under-recognized as a Black community. And I love the blue sky thinking. And I know people have ideas. But here's the thing. I sit here and I wonder, and I've sat here and I've wondered, and I've had conversations with Janelle, Kwame, and different people. Like, how could we bring folks together? Whether we have to bring Paul, what is the team of people? We need an advocacy team that will work for a Black mental health facility. And if people never knew how much it was needed, they should know by now, this is what we need. Yes, we can have programs in different health centers, but it's not enough. They don't even have enough for their community. And our community is sometimes the highest population in some of the hospitals.
Yeah, we are, I'm telling you, we are extreme. There are pockets in hospitals right now with different services where, for the most part, the clients are Black. But then every single staff member is white.
And how does that work?
When you say to them, like, what is going on? Do you understand that? So, we never thought about it.
They don't understand the food. They don't understand the conversation. They don't understand that when a Black female or male, depending on where they grew up, most people have, I know when I get passionate, like right now, I'm screaming and I'm like, Nicole, calm down. But we have a voice. It's part of our passion. And they think that's the angry Black man. They can't tell the difference when they're angry and when they're in psychosis.
Yes.
They get upset if they say something to them with a tone. And this person spoke to me too rough. I'm like, if our community understood what our loved ones have to go through with a mental illness, like when they have to be hospitalized, that's a conversation on its own that we need to have. I want people, as we sit here, and I know I'm cognizant of your time, it's like as we're dealing with COVID, we have our young kids at home, we have families at home, some of us are at home. In terms of signs or anything that we can probably pay attention to, that, okay, maybe you need to call someone for help. What are some of those signs? And maybe what are some of the resources that we can send people to start getting the help that they need? Because I know there's a lot of free stuff now that there wasn't before. And then how do you even choose care? But that's a whole nother conversation. This is a loaded conversation, Donna Alexander.
It is. It is. And like I said, we all know our people, right? So we know, like, let's say their baseline. If we know before, like over a period of time we've lived with people, if we start to see, and unfortunately, right, this is how complex it is. A lot of times when we talk about anxiety and we talk about depression, right, the symptoms sort of mimic each other. You could have someone that's anxious and they start to socially isolate. You have someone that's anxious and they also that's depressed and they'll socially isolate, right? So a lot of times you might have someone that's depressed and then they start to drink more, but then you might have someone that they're anxious and then just in terms of interaction, they start to use more, right? And so when we notice these shifts in people, we have to start talking to them. We have to start get over our own fear and our own discomfort, and we have to start talking to them, right? And it can't be just a one-time conversation because it never is, right? It's a conversation over and over until, so that they know we care about them and that they know that we're trying, that we're there for them. And that we're able to, we want to support them throughout the journey, like throughout them accessing service, right? So it's like, what, I've been noticed this and this, right? I'm sort of worried that maybe you're getting depressed, you're getting anxious, right? This is the normal response, right? How can I support you? What do you need me to do? Like, and again, to have that same conversation, right? So it's about that. I love you. I care about you. I can see that maybe something is going on. Yes, part of it is normal. Like, to say, okay, part of it is normal. Part of it could be in response to whatever is going on. But, also, it's important before it gets any worse that we sort of talk to someone and then sort of guide that person through that as well. Because, for this, we have to know when we have to sit, it's something that we can sit with. And then, because sometimes we have an off day where for that day, we just feel down and, but if it goes on for a period of 2 weeks or more, then we sort of have to think, okay, well, no, this is going on for too long, right? How can I start to access support? So who can I talk to? Like, what do I need to do?
Wow, Donna.
It begins with a conversation.
It begins with a conversation. And sometimes you have to recognize that sometimes people don't know what they're feeling. They don't know how to explain that they're feeling. And I encourage anyone, if you have a loved one going through, it's, starting with the depression, anxiety, if they tell you they don't know, they just don't know how to articulate it. And you have to be patient. I encourage family members to be patient. If your loved one is going through psychosis, you have to pack on your patience and you have to show self-compassion to yourself and self-compassion to your loved one. There are many comments coming on in here, and I see, somebody had put up, we need a meeting with, it was Diana who said we need a meeting with the Minister of Families, Children and Services. And I almost think like we need a mental health roundtable. And who would be those people at the round table that we would sit and meet with these ministers and have a plan to start the discussion? So if you're listening live on the replay and you have some ideas, I know Donna, Paul, Bailey, myself, and there are a few other people who will, because listen, we're not staying the same age. Our expertise, people are getting tired, and you love what you do, but there's one Donna, there's one Carol, there's one Floydine. You know what I'm saying? There are different people in our community that are pushing hard, and some that I haven't even named because there's so many people working in the field. Essie, come on now. We need a mental health talk show. All right. Okay, get me the funding, and I'm going to do it. I'm serious. Help me get the funding and the things, and we're gonna put on a mental health talk show because we need it. We have only touched the surface tonight on this topic, because as Donna is talking, there's so much more coming out. I haven't even gone through half my questions. I literally,
Really?
I knew when I wrote the questions, like, I know I'm not going to get through all of this. Barriers to care, and, all those different things, medication, genetics, you name it, the gamut. We have the questions here. And then there's the conversation that we need to also have about when your loved one is in crisis and you have to call for help. What do you do? We need to have that conversation.
Because that's an important conversation,
Yeah.
And I tell you, like, I've a lot of times, because a lot of times what I've said is, you know what? I've had people that come that I know need emergency service, and I said, okay, wait till your husband get home from work. Tell your husband to call a few of his friends or his brother or his whatever uncle, and then if you can do it that way, then
take him down.
Yes, right?
Yep.
But whatever you do not call TPS.
Yes.
Right? Because we don't want to traumatize this young man any further, because, our people, right? And our young man, and when it comes to the systems, right, and getting the systems involved, right? So over the years, I've had to be very creative. And when I call them, I make sure that there's certain things I've said and what I'm going to say to the dispatcher. And I've had,
Donna, we so need that conversation, because what you have to say, what you don't say, understanding how to prepare families so when you do have to call, if you have nobody to call, and understanding that, because we have to, and I think people also need to understand too that sometimes your loved one can get to a really serious crisis that they need to be hospitalized, and they can become very volatile. And for whatever part of whatever is written, they're either going to go in restraints, pressure, or they're going to go in handcuffs. But nobody's preparing families for this. Nobody's preparing families for, like, what happens if your loved one has to go into restraints in the hospital. Nobody's doing the debrief after restraints in hospitals. I know staff get debriefed, but family members are not being debriefed or getting counseling after this. What about the young person who was in restraints, but then goes into crisis again and has to be handcuffed again? What's the trauma happening there? What's the PTSD happening? There is so much to unpack with mental health and wellness. And so it is so important, I think, and tell me if you agree, if as soon as you start seeing signs of your mental wellness deteriorating, do something. If you recognize that your loved one, and so many people call me and say, Nicole, my loved one, I know they need help. What do I do? I say, call SAPACY. I'm not gonna lie. I say call SAPACY. Then I go, okay. Then I go call Kafka, and then I also say to them, call the Family Resource Center at CAMH, because they have a long list of places you can call.
But you know what? But it's okay. That's what we're there for. And
yeah, I feel it because I know how many calls I get.
Yes,
and I'm like,
try to be
responsive.
We really try to be responsive. You know, I work for the community. I never want to be in the community and anybody call my name and I can't look around, or I have to hide. I never want that to happen. You know, I never want that to happen. And I tell my staff and my students the same thing. I said, I said, we work for the community. We're here to serve the community. You never want to have anybody call your name and you're afraid to look around.
Yeah.
Wherever you are, anybody call your name, you must be able to look around without hesitation, right?
Amen.
So that's the premise. Listen, I've been here talking to somebody in England and in Amsterdam, three-way.
Wow. And I see. Okay, so Essie, I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you loud and clear. I knew I had to do more conversations on mental health, and I've been talking about it for a while. And I'm so glad that I kicked off this Black History Month piece with you, Donna. As I said, there's so much to unpack. If you were to see a victory in what are the victories as we wind down here? Because you gotta go home. But even though you are home, you gotta go home. If there was one victory or so you have seen in mental health in the Black community, could you name something that has been really good that has taken place for our community so far?
You know what? What I will say is a lot of people, in the past, people say to me, how do you do this job? How do you do this job, right? It's so depressing. I couldn't do this job. I don't know how you do it. It's so depressing. And I do this job, because I'm always inspired by the clients. I'm always so motivated. I'm in awe of the clients, right? And that's what keeps me going, because some of these young people that over the years I've had the privilege to work with, they've just been so inspirational and so motivating, right? Because sometimes when I look at the journey and where they are now and where they're coming from, and when I see the level of strength and resilience, and resistance and perseverance that these young people have shown and have demonstrated, I am constantly in awe of them. Like I would tell you that is what keeps me going. Because we have some, we talk about the young people that are in crisis, and a lot of times the focus gets, more on the ones that are, but more and more I see these young people and they're absolutely amazing, right? The way how they recover, the way how they move on and to move on and go on with the rest of their lives, right? That's why I've seen kids now that I work with, and they're in law school, they've done MBAs, as you're sitting in certain spaces, I'm in panels with them, I'm on panels and they're sitting right beside me. And I'm like, that's the strength of our community, right? Right now, even at U of T, I'm working with these amazing group of young Black medical students, right? And they're warriors.
Yeah.
I don't think at their age that I was so advanced. I really don't think so. The way how those young people, right now I'm teaching the third year medical, the residents, right? The psychiatry residents at U of T, right? And normally they don't even have social workers teaching them, right? Part of the reasons why I'm teaching them is because the young people literally, say to the faculty of psychiatry, we need this woman to come in and to teach, right? Like literally, they're the ones that advocated and said, listen, we need this person to come in and to teach us, right? Because normally it's never happened before. And now I'm serving in the psychiatry council at U of T, right?
Y'all better be giving Donna her flowers. You better be giving her some emojis now.
Again, they advocated so strongly, right? The talk that I'm giving on Wednesday night, it's one of the doctors from one of the psychiatrists she works full-time at St. Michael's Hospital, but that's where I met her.
Yes.
And so we've been, co-facilitating some of the classes and the training for the psychiatrists, but these young people, I'm telling you, these are some young warriors, right? And so this is what keeps me going.
New blood.
Yes, because they are, they're fearless. They are absolutely fearless. And I look at them, I'm like, wow.
They remind me of it sounds like they remind you of like the civil rights movement, when they were just fired up and they didn't care. They would die for the cause.
Their commitment. Their commitment to social justice, their commitment to justice, their commitment to human rights, their commitment to equity,
Yeah.
right? Their commitment to making sure that our people are served. It's I'm telling you, it is so inspirational. These young people, right? Both the ones that I work with, that I serve as clients, and the other ones that are just coming into the profession, right? That are so passionate and that they just want to do things very differently, right? And they're doing the work. And so that's what keeps me going. And so I am proud of that. I am so proud of these young warriors, right? Whether they're in recovery or they're on the other side. I am so fortunate to have them, like, to watch them and to I am so fortunate.
Yeah.
Yes.
Donna, you are supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I'm going to use it once for the night. I'm getting better. But you really are supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. So I can use it twice for the night because you are a gem, and the passion and the love that you share and the energy that you bring to the table. And I'm so glad for the first day that I met you. And I'm trying to stay up in my voice because I know I will cry, because you hold this special place in my heart that I don't even think you realize. And I know I'm not the only one in this community that holds you close and dear to their hearts. I can even just see by the comments tonight, there's so many people commenting, great conversation. Love you both. We love you back, and Wendy can't give enough claps and, hand raises and stuff. We have the conversations about mental health and the education system. The conversation is endless, but you have given us hope tonight. I know I have hope. And just hearing what the young people are doing, there's hope. And we probably need to bring some of them on and have a conversation, have a panel with them and talk to them. This is our unique space, and whatever you want to talk about, whenever you're available to come back, if I can have you on once a week, I will. But I won't pull you. I know you have to breathe and you have to take care of your family. Donna, is there like a parting word, a favorite quote or motto that you live by that you want to share with people before you go tonight?
Yes. And I say, I think this what I learned when I was really young. I don't know. I don't know where I learned it from, but in my times of thing, right? Like whenever I need encouragement, sometimes you learn these things and you have no idea where.
Yep.
But I can't. But always I remember, like in everything I do, right? I always remember, the race is not for the swift, or the battle for the strong. It is for those that can endure it to the end.
Amen.
Right? And trust me, we can endure.
Sure. Yes.
We can endure. Right? The goal is, the goal is to thrive. But before we do that, we can endure, and that we can do, right? Yes. That we can do it. And remember, we are our brother's keeper. We are, because I am because you are. So Nicole, I am because you are, my sister. The only reason I'm here is because you are. The only reason I'm here is because Carol and all of those, that's the only reason I'm here, right? So I am because all of you are. That's the only reason I am, right? I am because I always feel it. I always feel it. I am because you are. I always remember that. Right? I'm not separated from you. You're not separated.
Huh? I was doing so well until you made me cry. Oh my God, Donna. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And you know what? We are going to get to the place, and I'm going to put on my vision board tonight. We're no longer going to be bleeding while leading as we heal. We're gonna move from that place to leading as we are healed. Yeah. I mean, people like you, people like Carol, and all the many wonderful people who work in the mental health field, to all of you that are on the front lines. I would say anybody listening live on the replay, send your emojis, give Donna and those on the front line their flowers. Remember that they are here for us. They are, in the midst of this crisis, even just knowing, I see the numbers at CAMH puts it up on the website, how many staff have gotten ill. I saw the other day 9 staff were ill, and they, you have to think of loved ones in there, and they still have to take care of the loved ones. You have patients that get ill. This COVID thing is real, and people are going to work. So I know people pay attention to people on the front lines at the major hospitals, but the people on the front lines in the mental health facilities working with mental health patients, we need to love on them as well. Send them whatever you need to do. Send them a gift card for some Tim Hortons. Send them a gift card for takeout food, because when they get home, they are tired. If you want to know how to take care of them, some of us are home. Donna, even you're even speaking about taking calls from all over the place. If you know of a family and a loved one with a mental illness, let me tell you, start making some casseroles, because you get tired. You forget how to cook. You forget how to do the basic things. Send somebody something with some scent, some candles. Send Donna a scented candle, with some bubble bath or something, and the rest of her team. Do something nice.
Take care of yourself, guys.
Take care of yourself out there.
And each other. And each
Yeah.
other. Yeah.
And I thank you for tuning in. And Donna, I am so gracious to you. And as I let Donna go on her merry little way, because she has some stuff that she has to go to. Donna, I love your smile. I love your beauty. I love your awesomeness. As I said, there's none like you. You're unique. And look at us. We were twinsies tonight. We kind of
thank you.
We didn't even think about it.
Yes, I had a great. Thank you. This was a great conversation.
And
if anybody want to register for Wednesday, Dr. Sadiq will. I think she can send the link.
Yeah, I will put up the link, and I'll put up the poster for.
I think she closed the. I think
she closed the registration
is closed. But she said to me, if there's anybody that really wants to join, that
so if you want to reach,
her and she could open the registration up.
Okay, put a comment in the comment box, and I'll go back, or send me a DM. Easier stuff. In fact, if you want to attend the event on Wednesday, I'm already registered. Thank you, Jesus. Put it in the comment box, and I'll get that to Donna. Donna, once again, thank you for coming out. Thank you for making this an awesome night of conversation. And if you want to reach me, you can reach me at Victory Speaks at Twitter and on Instagram. On YouTube, the video is already up. I stream to YouTube tonight on Clubhouse. You can find me at Victory Speaks. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. I need some followers on my YouTube channel. I need some followers on my Facebook. If you want to help me build this awesomeness, and if you want to get a talk show, we need to get following. Your following actually helps. I also do the Victory Speaks audio podcast on Spotify, and you can get it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, and anywhere you listen to a podcast. And I share the Victory Speaks formula. This week, we're speaking about vision. The V in victory is for your vision. So tune into that. I encourage you to have an intentional conversation today. Inspire someone with a smile. Stop by and listen to what somebody has to say. Your conversations can be inspired by your truth, your love, and your story. Your story is necessary, and your story is needed. We need to be called to a higher, more meaningful conversation, not just with who we know, but with those we meet along the way. I want to share with you this quote from Les Brown. You don't have to control your thoughts. You have to control what you pay attention to. And now, as we go into this Black History Month, this is day one. The Honorable Jean Augustine has a $25,000 that she's trying to raise for a chair. I'll share more about that on my page. But we take some time, showcase the books you're listening to, the chefs, the artists, support a Black-owned business, support Black movies. Just do something for our community that's just different. And if you're hiring an artist, but it's a poet, this is a time where artists are hired. It's their busiest time. But it's also their poorest time, because many people ask them to perform for free. And so as you think about the mental health and wellness, think about the mental health and wellness of all the artists and entertainers whose jobs were lost during this season. And they need you to support them. They need you to come out in full-fledged. And I'm so grateful for my guest, Donna Alexander, tonight. I thank you for all of you who tuned in tonight. Tomorrow, I am going to be speaking at the impact of COVID-19, navigating mental health challenges. It's a free virtual health event. The poster will be up on my website. It is done by the Transformation Institute, and it's going to be tomorrow at 6 o'clock, sponsored also by Afro Global Television. Bounce Back Better Community Resilience Program. It's a webinar series. So that's where I'll be tomorrow. And Donna will be in a different place on Wednesday. So we're going to share your events. Look at the subway. TTC has a beautiful campaign. They've wrapped a bus. They've wrapped a subway train in pictures. And there's so many great people on there. So anyways, I thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate you. Take your time. Enjoy the view. Enjoy your life. Smile. Have something fun to eat tonight. Hug somebody that you love. And if you can't hug them, call somebody and hug them with a smile. Be blessed. Good night.
Good night. Bye, guys.